Hello, good morning to you. Many thanks for joining us. You're watching Galaxy today, coming to you from Galaxy Television. My name is Justin Nakadonian.
And of course, it's on Uche Onyekuluje. Already we know that is election season. We're already counting down to election time. Okay, we're looking at curbing election violence, Justin, and I'm sure you're already like a whole lot is going on. If you look at what happened recently with APC, APM stage falling, and people are wondering what is going on with what's going to happen during election. But Justin, what's your own take about all this?
Well, the thing is that we should be casting our votes and not fighting because we've had lots of skirmishes around electioneering and rallies across. Even here in Lagos, we hear of people getting injured and some people even being killed. Just last week it was reported that the APM and APC supporters clashed in Ogun State, and it was reported that about 10 people were killed. And not long ago, 2 days after, there was also another brutal attack around Iraq, still in Ogun State. We're looking at all of this on the show today in a bid to curtailing it and reducing violence in our election space. The elections are just barely 11, 12 days to go, so we should be talking about how we can go about these elections without violence. We have guests here in Lagos, Ibadan and Abuja who will be discussing this issue with us this morning. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll come introduce our guests to join us again.
We detest the acts of provocation and deliberate violence to cower and intimidate the APC in Benue State by the People's Democratic Party, which we suspect are responsible for this.
Of course, my house in the place was also under attack. Up to now, it's been very difficult because they have taken over. They had arms. And of course, from what we learned, by yesterday, mercenaries were brought from elsewhere to reinforce, to meet with the local boys that they have, so that they will make sure no rally took place in Bajimba.
Somebody asked us about casualties. As I speak to you, about 5 of my supporters are still missing. We cannot reach them through phone. One of them was hit by a stone. She's still bleeding, and I've directed them to take her to the hospital.
But that will not stop us not taking over Fabiyi. Whether I like it or not, we'll take over Fabiyi. So I want to tell all my supporters of the party to be calm. We will definitely go to Bajima, nothing will stop us. We will go there.
All right, welcome back from that break. It's still Galaxy today. We have guests here in Lagos. They are representatives of the Take It Back movement. Let's make a welcome Dr. Malcolm Fabiyi. He is the Director General of Take It Back movement. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. And seated close to her is Rachel Onamusi-Kpiasi, Director of Public Relations, Take It Back movement. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today. All right. And just to mention that we have Director of the National Orientation Agency in your state standing by in our Ibadan studios, and of course Ezinwa Nwagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms, also standing by in Abuja. Okay, let's start with Lagos now. Dr. Malcolm, let me just put it the way it is, carte blanche, what would you say is responsible for the myriads of skirmishes and violence we see in our election space this period? Not just in 2019, it's been on for like forever. Yes. A lot of people are quick to put it on the shoulders of the political parties, right, and of course their supporters. What's your reaction to that?
So very quickly, it's great to be here. The Take It Back movement is actually the Showore 2019 political organization. Okay. So Showore, as you know, is one of the leading candidates in the elections, the voice of the youth, and we're also members of the African Action Congress. Okay. So we're also here as a political party. Okay. So here's the reality. The Nigerian political space is devoid of ideology. That is why somebody can be in APC today and in PDP tomorrow. Because there are no differences in their political ideas. a political space, if you were in the United States and somebody told you he was a Democrat, without even meeting that person, you know what they believe. If they told you they were Republican, you know what they believe. If you go to the UK and somebody tells you, I belong to the Labour Party, you know 80–90% of what they believe politically about the role of government. So there's no difference between the parties. When there's no ideological difference, the only way you can fight, so when political parties fight, they fight in what we call the marketplace of ideas. You come with ideas and that's how you fight. The problem I believe we have in this nation, the reason why political parties resort to physical violence is because they cannot have ideological battles. And that is why one of the things so when the elections, we've not had any skirmishes with anybody. We have our presidential candidate, as I'm speaking to you right now, is actually in Edo State, doing the last leg of his round the country campaign. We've not been involved in any skirmishes, but guess who is involved in skirmishes? It is the establishment parties that have absolutely no idea. So we will not see an end to political violence in this country until we return to a politics that is sane. If I may just very quickly add, these political parties are not, the political system in Nigeria is not new. We had the Action Group in the 60s. We had the NCNC in the 60s. We had the Northern People's Congress, the MPC. When those people were engaged in political battles initially, between the end of the 1950s to the early 60s, there were no skirmishes. The issues at the time were based on fundamental ideological differences. We believe that is a problem this country has.
Okay, so talking about what you believe and how to curb these violence, what would you suggest?
So just going on from what he said earlier, the violence is orchestrated. It's orchestrated. It can be orchestrated in two ways. It can be very direct, where you pay someone to go and cause havoc or to go and destabilize a process that's going on. We've seen this before with ballot box snatching and things like that. These young men don't act by themselves. They are actually incentivized to do that. The other side of it, which is indirect, is oppression. So when people are fed up, when people feel like their voices aren't being heard, people feel that their needs aren't being met, or that their leaders aren't listening to them or reacting to what they're saying, they will take to the streets in frustration. They'll take to the streets the only way they know how. And even that is engineered. So you have a situation where parties feel like if they can't have what they want, then they'll just ruin it and send it all going haywire. So, oh yeah, that's fine. If they want to scatter it, let them scatter it. So if they're tired, let them scatter it. What's going to happen? We will continue eating this money. We will continue ruling the country. Then it's left to them. Let them bury their dead. Let them get on with their business. So if you want to curb the violence, it's about education. You have to educate the people. This is not a do or die affair. And if you're frustrated, that means you're doing the wrong thing.
When you say educate the people, on whose shoulder does that responsibility fall? Is it on the political parties or the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, or just who exactly is supposed to do the education?
I think when you have heads in INEC that are compromised, to say the least, I don't think they can do a good job of educating the people. I would go so far as to say, to an extent, certain positions are being compromised in such a way that they can actually add to the violence and actually add to the disruption. If you're talking about should political parties be involved in educating, I think if they were to be involved, they should do far more than what they say. They should do what they claim to do. They should walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So if you have a situation where someone gets on a podium and says, oh, you know, I urge all Nigerians to be peaceful, but are actually responsible for making the payments, for, you know, inciting boys, for getting large crowds together with no objective other than to actually incite this violence, then I don't think it falls on their shoulders. I think the communities need to educate themselves. I think community leaders need to educate themselves. I think people need to educate themselves by watching programs such as yourselves and looking at, actually, don't worry about what the leaders are, who sounds like they're making sense? Who sounds like they actually mean the best for us? Who's actually telling us about a different way to do it? Because if the way we've been doing it for 58 years was correct, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have political violence. Other countries have elections. Nigerians need to understand this. And they don't have casualties. People don't die. People walk into a polling booth, people vote, and then people go home. And then the results are read at the end of the day, and then we know who the winner is. So people need to find out, look, we've been doing it wrong. The establishment isn't giving us the answers we want. And we're burying our children, we're burying our fathers, we're burying our brothers over something that at the end of the day is just benefiting them. Let us take the power back. Let us do it a different way. Okay. And that's what the African Action Congress has always been about.
All right, we'll come back to you now, but Ibadan is standing by. Let's quickly take them so we can just wrap up. I understand they have to be somewhere. Let's talk to the Director of National Orientation Agency in Oyo State, Mrs. Dolapo Dosumu. Many thanks for hanging on Galaxy today. We're looking at election violence and ways to curb it. All right. Our guests in Lagos have mentioned a whole lot of points. One of them is that of education of the electorate. I know the National Orientation Agency is saddled with one of those responsibility of educating and reorientating Nigerians on these issues, not just on election but national unity. All across. But let me get it so far from your end, looking at the 2019 general elections. Are we saying that a lot of education was not really done on the part of maybe INEC, the NOA, because so far, almost every week we get reports of people being killed, people being maimed, and a lot of people being hospitalized?
Thank you, Justin. I'm going to say that it is not all about education. First of all, I must say that we've been having this education in Oyo State in particular, INEC and NOA, for about 8 months we've been on this. But the sudden and the very, very recent upsurge of violence that we are witnessing, I'm sure it is in an attempt to show some power, some strength in a very, very negative manner. First of all, I would say that in the recent times that we've been having these debates for the candidates, when they come to the event, you see them hugging themselves, they talk mutually, they exchange banters and all that. And these are the same political parties that do clash.
All right, it's still Galaxy today. I think we have a bit of connectivity issue. We'll try and reconnect with Ibadan when we get better signals. Let's talk to you, Dr. Malcolm. You talked about the politicians, when they come for different fora. At the end of the day, they exchange banter, they exchange pleasantries, they hug each other. At the end of the day, we find out that their own children are actually in the houses. Very safe, but you find that it's the children of those poor people, yes, who are used to perpetrate election violence. Would you say it's a thing of poverty or just poverty of the mind, or what exactly would you say?
I think it's a combination of all kinds of poverties. It's I alluded earlier to the poverty of ideas in the political space, but you're right that the people that Nigerians are killing themselves over, their families are all married to each other. Their children all go to the same schools. They have no issues with each other. They're not the ones who die on the streets. So again, the bottom line is, and I think the chairperson of the NOA was making a very important point, which is, look, at the end of the day, education is only part of this. Right? We can educate people, we can tell them that these things aren't right, we can tell them that we should play politics the right way. But as Rachel was indicating earlier, what do we actually do? What do we practice? So as a political party, for example, we've staged protests, but we've always emphasized that everything must be peaceful, that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And if the leaders say that, so yes, people have signed peace pacts, But the same people that sign peace pacts are the people releasing money for thugs to go fight. Because I can assure you that there's no Nigerian risking his or her life in the streets without having been paid to do so. Yeah. Right? Somebody, an APC thug was injured the other day. You know where that APC thug is today? He's actually overseas receiving treatment. He didn't sponsor himself to go there. Somebody paid for that to happen. So as long as we're saying one thing and doing another thing, nothing is going to change. That's the reality.
Okay, it's just a pity that it looks like the youth are the ones suffering this, and this is supposed to be the future of the country. And it looks like you rightly said, there's poverty of the mind. But when you talk about education and sensitizing these people, we are just a few days away to the elections. How do you intend to curb this? How do you think? Do you think this would? Do you think if we apply whatever we have to apply, would it actually work?
I think it will work, and I think for Nigerians in particular, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So the more they see something working, the more likely they are to do it. The more they see it working, the more likely they are to do it. Our movement that you alluded to earlier, the Take It Back movement, was actually responsible for part of the people responsible for having INEC increase the registration for the voters card. Otherwise, that would have been cut off 2 weeks earlier than it actually was. And we staged a peaceful and legal protest. What do I mean by that? We had the police involved. We made sure that we had the right authorizations. We made sure not a single person had a scratch on their finger. And what happened was that we got INEC to extend the registration for voting by another 2 weeks. It can be done. You can have conversations with the Nigerian electorate that are peaceful, that are legal, that do not involve the transfer or exchange of funds or money. And the more you do it, the more that they see that it's possible. The more that you do it, the more the people who have joined the African Action Congress, making it one of the 3 largest parties in Nigeria today, certainly making the Take It Back movement the largest growing socio-political movement in Nigeria, in Africa.
Okay, Awechi, just hold on. Just hold that thought. We'll talk more about what the Take It Back movement is doing. It's still Galaxy today. I understand we have to take this quick commercial break. We'll be right back to join us again.
You discovered the things even before you discovered being a mom. You ate the things that you would not touch before. You listened to brand new music. Now keep discovering with Molfix Newborn. Its soft and breathable surface gently touches your baby's skin. Its ultra-absorbent structure locks the liquid in, provides the care your newborn baby needs. Molfix Newborn. Happy today, happy tomorrow.
All right, welcome back. It's still Galaxy today. Before we took that break, Rachel was just enumerating some of the Take It Back movement and ideology as regards violence-free elections.
Yeah. So we educate our followers. We've never paid anyone or incited anyone to violence, and you can see it from our followers. You've never heard our name in the news. We've never been responsible for any of the mishaps or shenanigans or violent acts that happened in Nigeria leading up to the elections. We've never parted either by cash, kind, or loaves of bread or bags of rice for anything. All we've sold, as the Director General of the campaign has said, all we've sold is ideas. And what has happened in the last 10 months has made us, certainly as a party, as a movement that led on to a party, to understand that Nigerians were hungry for ideas. Tell us something we can believe in. Give us a viable alternative. Give us something that can work, because they were tired of voting APC, PDP, back to APC, back to PDP, voting the same people, recycling the same leaders. So when it comes to curbing the violence in the elections, it's just by doing. So you can't curb it if, like he said, you say something on a podium, you know, you stand in front of a TV camera or whatever, and then at the end of the day, we have thugs that are being flown abroad for treatment for inciting said violence. It can't work. The only way that it can work is for us to walk the walk.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Let's reconnect with Ibadan. Dolapo Dosumu is the director, NOA, Oyo State. Many thanks for hanging on, Mrs. Dosumu. Before we got disconnected there, you were you know, throwing more light on the gray areas as regards education and what the NOA has done vis-a-vis election violence. Please go ahead.
Yes, I was just saying that we've been having this consistent education going on, but let me just say that what we are having now, to me, it seemed like an indicator of desperation for power. And to me, it means our democracy is really growing. A lot of people are conscious of the fact that they need to get across to voters. They need to express themselves to the voters. But unfortunately, we have a lot of youth around that are not really conscious of their own position in this stake. They are not really conscious of the role they should play in the democracy that we have on hand. So we also commend a lot of religious-based organizations, faith-based organizations, civil societies that are taking up this education with NOAA and INEC. So it's like everybody wants to be part of this process that is going on. But then we have to make a special appeal again to the political leaders. They come out to say what they want to do, what they have as their vision, what is their manifesto, but they need to de-emphasize this expression of violence because they have to take a step, desperate step to check their followers. It is not the leaders, it is not the contestants, but you have ready-made tools in miscreants on the streets that run along with these guys, and before you know it, they foment troubles. And I want to say that also our security agencies should be at alert, because most of the time, the parties do not fight themselves. It's either they're fighting opposition or a threat, a group of threat that they see, not necessarily a political party. We have had in Oyo State where two sets of miscreants clash behind a political party. So it is not really a political thing like that. It's just a survivor for recognition, a survivor for, you know, maybe what to gain at the almost immediately. So the education has to be total. Our people too needs to know that nothing good will come out of this violence because it's a threat to the peace of the community. And that is why you see now that once the violence starts, people will just shut up their house, shut up their shops, and move away from them. So I wonder, who are the political parties now campaigning to? If the people you want to talk to they fled because of the violence they are seeing, and let me use this opportunity to also implore household leaders. They should please check their people. The young men, the young women, the girls, the boys in their household. They should please hold them. That they should see themselves as potential candidates as well. They should not use their life as a mortgage, a sacrifice for somebody that is contesting to be in position. Who says that young man there, who says the young girl there could not aspire to become a senator, a rep, or even a governor? So mothers, caregivers, household leaders, everyone in authority should have a say in this matter to check our youths. Check our youths.
Much Dolapo Dosumu, Director, NOA, Oyo State. That's as much as we can take from Oyo State. It's still Galaxy today. We're still expecting your feedbacks. Do so by interacting with us on social media using the hashtag Galaxy Today or send us an SMS. The number will be displayed on air. We'll take yet another break, and we'll still have representatives of the Take It Back movement, and of course we'll go to Abuja also in the second half of the show. Let's take this quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You discovered the things even before you discovered being a mom. You ate the things that you would not touch before. You have memorized voluminous books. Now keep discovering with Molfix Newborn. Its soft and breathable surface gently touches your baby's skin. Its ultra-absorbent structure locks the liquid in, provides the care your newborn baby needs. Molfix Newborn. Happy today, happy tomorrow.
All right, welcome back. It's still Galaxy today, and we're talking about election violence. Dr. Malcolm, she talked about the place of, the home front and, caregivers talking to the young people. What's the essence of all of this peace accord being signed almost every time we have, elections, and yet there's invariably no peace in our elections?
Well, so I think anytime you find people having to sign peace accords, what it tells you is you have a problem to start with. And that is something that has actually been introduced recently into our political space, where the situation is so charged, where violence is the currency of exchange, that it has led us to a situation where we believe that's necessary. So I think your point fundamentally was, what is the point of engaging and talking to people and telling them to curb the violence if at the end of the day nothing changes? We've made a few points that we cannot give up simply because things aren't changing yet. We have to continue to preach the message. And there are several messages that need to be preached. One is that politics is not a do or die affair. What has happened, unfortunately, in Nigeria is politics is a career. That many of these politicians outside of the political process, so tell me, how many jobs will you do that will pay you 13.7 million naira per month, apart from being a senator in the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Who wants to leave a job like that? So there's that aspect of desperation that's there. Secondly, we'd mentioned the point that there is, within the Nigerian political space, just a famine of ideas, right? That has to be reintroduced. She made a very important point, which is, look, these young people that are being told to go fight and kill on behalf of the parties, they could be governors, they could be senators. Get who is doing that? Our party is actually doing that. So when it costs you 50 million naira to get the gubernatorial ticket of a party, which young person can afford that? When it costs you 20 million naira to get the House of Reps ticket of a party, which young person can do that? In our party, we've actually done that. It costs 2 million naira to get the presidential the presidential ticket on the platform of our party. And it costs anybody that is actually a student, regardless of your age, 0 naira to pick up our party ticket. So what we did was to encourage young people. We have candidates not just at the presidential level, we have candidates across the entire spectrum. Majority of our candidates are in their late 20s and 30s. Okay,
a follow-up question to what he said. I mean, I really do believe that if we crave a change, it's not going to be immediate. It's a process. I agree. But say that we're using the same tool to preach whatever it is we're preaching, and it looks like the coverage is not substantial. Do you not think that there could be another angle to this? I mean, I've heard an adage here is saying that you could do what they do to get the same result you want to get. So if Nigerians or the youth are hungry and you're trying to preach peace, and there's someone who's ready to give something, they don't understand the message of peace. What they want is, I need to feed. And they're given something for what they want now. Do you not think there's an angle you could attack this as well? I'm not saying you're not making progress.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that with what you've done so far, in order to cover more ground, do you not think that, okay, if feeding them will make them hear me, then I could do that? I don't know if you understand my point.
Perfectly. Okay, I understand your point. So let me say this. We have hundreds and thousands, millions of followers all around Nigeria.
Okay.
They're not all full. They're not all going to bed on a full stomach. So if feeding was the only motivation for doing the right thing, we wouldn't have a single... You wouldn't have me, because I didn't go to bed necessarily with a full stomach. The important thing is to say, since they've been giving you, are you full? Are your children in school? Are you paying that school fees? When your minimum wage is 18,000 and you are begging for it to be increased to 30,000 and they're pricing 30,000 that isn't even enough to get you out of your home as if it is fish in the market. No. What about 25? No. What about 27? No. Will you accept 28? No. Has it worked? If it's about feeding, if it's about the immediate, if it's about instant gratification, we wouldn't have these problems. We wouldn't be on these couches having these conversations. If it was only about instant gratification, the AAC would not have the followers that it has today. We would all go home and say, do you know what? There's nothing that can be done. Let's all take the loaf of bread. Let's all take the bag of rice. Let's all call it a day. Let them run roughshod all over us and let that be that. But say what you will, Nigerians are waking up to it.
Yes.
If I can't buy a NECO form and I have been going to work, and my child is now at that age where that child needs to take that exam, and I've been going to work waiting for this day where I will put my child in senior education. Do you know what? I'm going to have a conversation. So there was a lady in Benin City yesterday meeting with our principal, Omoyele Shore, and she was 85. And she said she was going to go to the airport to welcome him. And she said she was going to push her away. There's a photograph of it. We've got it out on our social media platforms now. And she said, I want to see you. I want to shake you by the hand because you're the only viable alternative that I have heard. She's 85. It's not working. The hunger, the manifesto, the keep them hungry enough and we'll get them to do whatever we need them to do. It's not working. And Nigerians are seeing that. It's not working. Are there people who need that loaf of bread just to make it through today? Yes, there are. Do you know what the establishment is starting to find out? People are taking the loaves of bread and people are still joining AAC. It's not working.
All right. Okay, we have feedbacks here. Let's see if we can read some of them. It is unfortunate that both the president and the governors of the ruling party have the control and dictate to the police what they do like, you know, what's playing out in or what played out in Osun State. The politicians deliberately use the helpless youth to cause mayhems. Nigerians should vote against parties and candidates who sponsor violence. Apostle Samuel Adiola from Ibadan sent in that one. Let's see if we can read more. I am Emma Dominic or Ima Dominic Achene from Benue State. To me, categorically saying that INEC is not, okay, that's not related. It says the only perfect way to curb violence during election is when the greed and dire agitations for power from the candidate is being checkmated by their own conscience. That leadership is from God alone. They would not have to kill to lead because a leader is a servant in the right sense. God bless Nigeria. Okay, let's see. This one is from Ghana. Sir Hyacinth Udenwoke in Ghana. We can only curb violence in elections if our politicians understand that their opponent is not their enemy and should never be. Again, let our pastors, imams, NCCE do more in educating and letting our youth understand that life has no duplicate. All right, violence in election is not good. Let it stop now. Atakwaye from Ghana. Presenters, please tell our President Buhari that we are suffering in Benue State. No salary payment. He's still pushing us to the wall. That's why he's not paying and we are complaining. Okay, try and paraphrase and stay on the topic. We're looking at election violence on the show this morning. We must start now to include the losers of election by the winners. I don't understand what that means. Let's use our political ethos. It would reduce violence. But let's talk about the place of the police after I take this one. Hello, gentlemen in the station. I am Jonathan from Anambra State. The politicians deceive us a lot. Therefore, let them go to campaign podium with at least 10 of their immediate relations so that when planning, they will consider security of the people. More comment to comment. But let's talk about the place of, security agents and police. Most times, is it like the political parties, when they go for their rallies, they don't get the right, coverage of security, for their rallies, or what exactly is the issue? Or is it like the police and the other security apparatus are not really competent enough to cover these issues when rallies and campaigns are ongoing? Dr. Malcolm.
I think it's a combination of both. Okay. So here's the reality. I'll pose a question to you. It's a rhetorical question, and I'll attempt to answer it myself. We've been talking about political violence now since 1999. Can you tell me anybody that has ever been arrested for violence, that has ever gone to jail for violence, or the people who actually paid them to engage in violence? Has anybody ever been arraigned in court? We're even talking about the political process. What about the farmer-herdsman conflicts? We see pictures every day in the papers about animals killed. We see pictures of human beings that have been murdered. Has anybody ever been arrested? Has anybody ever been tried? So I think before even talking about whether we have sufficient law enforcement presence, one thing that is clear is that the political space in this country has become one in which violence we've become insensitive to violence, right? We see images of people being killed by Boko Haram every day, people being killed by militant herdsmen, and we're completely desensitized to it. So what we're seeing in the political space is actually just a microcosm of a larger problem in Nigerian society. One, that law enforcement agencies are not doing what they're supposed to do. Two, that our judicial system and process is not as intensive and as exhaustive as it should be. But to your point, one of the things that is also happening in many of these rallies, I mean, Rachel indicated earlier that we've staged some protests. We requested permission from the police to stage those protests. The protests were completely peaceful. But think about what happens in a political rally. You have 20,000 people. Guess what? Most of those 20,000 people were paid about 5,000 naira each to come there. They were paid to come. So when you are paid to come to a place, you are a performer. Whatever performance is required of you, whether it is violence, whether it's just to hail, then you do it. So until our political process is sanitized, until people start going to jail, not just for the violence itself, because by picking up the people that are violent, it is the oppressed Nigerians that for some of them think there is no option than to take 2,000, 5,000 naira and put their lives on the line. Those are not the people we should be dealing with. It's the politicians that are giving them those monies. We know who they are. I just gave you an example. There was an APC rally in Lagos, and there it was not even inter-party conflict. It was intra-party conflict. Guess what? The people who perpetrated the violence and the people who paid for the violence, absolutely nothing has been done to anybody. Instead, people are being flown overseas.
All right, Dr. Malcolm, we'll come back to you. We're getting signals now from Abuja. We have Ezenwa Nwangu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reform, standing by. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy today, Ezenwa. We're still looking at curbing election violence on the show. I want to get your inputs quickly. We've we've pointed out several points right now for electoral violence, but let's look at serving it, head on. What are the profitable solutions that you would mention right now?
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me. I think that it's important to first put out when we say electoral violence, meaning that we are trying to deodorize crime committed during elections. When I say deodorize, I think that assault, battery, whatever it is that people do, whether they do them during elections or they do them on Christmas or Ilea Day, they should be sanctioned. They should take the full weight of the law when they infract on the law. Having said that, you have the ones that are precipitated by perhaps the parties not keeping to their internal party democratic principles. When there are no level playing grounds within the party, most people will resort to self-help. And in doing that, they cause injury, they cause harm to not just even people who are involved, but even people who are not involved in the issues. So for me, generally, is to say, look, like your guests in the studio said, the challenge for us is that people commit crimes, and we give the impression that if crimes are committed during election period, that it is okay, and that there are no consequences for it. So we need to begin to deal with these issues in a more direct manner and take away issues that border on crime and criminality and deal with them as decisively as we can, as the law allows us to do, whether it is during election or any other period of time.
Thank you so much, because it is really worrisome. We have talked about the place of the police and other security, apparatus in this issue of election violence. What do you think we need to do? Do we need to get more security personnel at rallies? Because if you look at elections that we've had in several states, most times you see a lot of deployment of police officers and other sister agencies to those states now. But right now we're going to have elections holding simultaneously, across Nigeria. How do you think we're going to really go about this?
Well, I think it's also important to say that it has nothing to do with the number of deployment. There is also the political economy of deployment. There is a lot of corruption in the whole deployment process. So the challenge is not deployment. The challenge will be professionalism. The challenge will be our attitude, even the complicity of the security agents themselves in responding to the carrots that the dominant powers within their environment threw at them. What do I mean? The bigger challenge has been that the security agencies have not taught themselves to be neutral, to be completely independent, to be impartial, to not take sides in the whole attitude, in the whole electioneering period. They are themselves immersed in politics as more than even the politicians themselves. So what we need to deal with is that even if we are deploying 10 people, can they be professional? Can they really do this job the way it's meant to do, in a way that serves the citizens and not necessarily the one that serves the dominant powers that exist at any point in time?
Sir, for your comment, we've been speaking with Ezenwa Nwangu. He is the chairman partners for Electoral Reforms. He joined us from Abuja. It's still Galaxy today. Keep those comments coming. Let us talk about these issues, because it affects just every one of us, our children, our youths, everyone in Nigeria. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and talk some more. Do join us again.
Talk about the peace for Ogun State. Because the act of thuggery and people quarreling and fighting and cutting themselves cannot be tolerated in this state. We are trying to serve the people, and we believe that we have to show good examples.
It's a welcome development, very, 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 very much welcome. I mean, like Yoruba says, pardon my language, I mean, here is an elder statesman, and definitely what happened on Thursday is nobody's happy about it. And the idea is just to get to the root of it, to know precisely what is behind it.
All right, welcome back from that quick break. It's still Galaxy today. Uche, you have the next question.
Exactly. Okay, I realize it's a trend. I mean, I schooled here, and it's almost like every time there's an election, there must be strike, particularly ASU strike. Yes. University students are made to sit back at home, and it feels like it's a deliberate thing. I'd like you to say something about that, Dr. Marco.
I believe it's absolutely deliberate. So, like you, I schooled here too. I went to the University of Lagos. I was a student union president when I was at the University of Lagos. Okay. In fact, I was student union president after Omoyele Sowore, who is the presidential candidate of my party. Okay. So I know a little bit about strikes and a little bit about the antecedents to this. So here's the reality. Where do people register to vote? When students register to vote, they tend to be in school. When there is an ASU strike, students go back where? They go back home. So one way to make sure you eliminate a youth vote is by making sure you have an ASU strike. They are not in school. They can't vote. So is that deliberate? If something happens not once, if something happens once, we'll say maybe it was a mistake. But if it happens time after time after time, this is probably the third or the fourth election cycle where somehow, magically, the ASU strike and a prolongment of an ASU strike and students not being in school just happen to be at the same time. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the potential that, look, now you have more young people on the streets. Now you have more young people out of school. Now you have more young people being desperate to have something to do. And it becomes easier to engage them in potential acts of electoral violence. So, but fundamentally, one must ask the question, why is it, as you've raised, why is it that during every electoral cycle, I mean, 60 to 70% of this nation is made up of young people. With almost 200 people, 60 to 70% means about 120 million Nigerians are young people. Our universities have millions of young people who registered to vote when they were on campus, and now they're at home, which means they will not be participating. Millions will not be participating in the elections.
Okay, saying what your party represents and what it tries to do, aside curbing election violence, you're also into grooming youngsters.
Right.
Okay, now, do you not think this is also an avenue to woo more minds, about seeing their future and setting it right? Now they're at home. This is a time to get them busy and make them understand that the future is for the take. It's not just about going to school and earning a degree and just sit back and look for a white-collar job.
Right.
You know. Okay, so now, if that is what you're into, what are you? How are you taking advantage of what is currently going on, this ASU strike?
So I'll take that if I may.
Please do.
We had, we'd sort of anticipated that there would be an ASU strike, actually.
Okay.
So when we started, first of all, the awareness leg of our campaign, which is the period before INEC makes it actually legal to campaign officially, our principal, Omoyele, had been visiting campuses to packed auditoriums. There are thousands of young people who have heard of his antecedents, who have heard that he was a student union president, who have heard that he was standing, at the right-hand side of Abiola when the June 12th elections were announced and then deposed, as it were. So we'd started having these conversations with them that, look, this is your future. Are you talking about someone in Asarok that's already 80-something? Don't even worry about him. He'll be gone. And even if he's not gone, he has more than enough to take care of himself. This is your future. This is about you. So we'd started sensitizing them. We'd started having these conversations. We'd started saying to them, we're not just a party of youth, or of young ideas, but of innovation as well. So we rely heavily on technology, on databases. We'd started taking their phone numbers. We'd started talking to them. We'd started putting together little communities of their student union leaders, but also where they live, what they do on and off campus. So even within Obafemi Awolowo University, for example, we knew those who lived in Alimosho, we knew those who lived in Lagos State, we knew those who came from Ogun States and things like that. And we had little, youth leaders that were actually in touch with them. So we have entire departments within our campaign structure just for students, just because we knew that this would happen. Wherever you have a force that's gathered together, where that could be a formidable force or credible force to reckon with, the establishment will always try to bring it to its knees, will always try to cripple it. And it, like you said, you schooled here, I schooled here as well, and I had, and we had the situation with the ASU strikes as well. They always make sure that it's lengthened. So the students are at the end of their rope. You can't get students to do what you want within a 2-week strike. And most of them are still on campus within a 2-week strike. Give it 4 months. Whatever provisions you had has finished, you've gone home, you're sitting at home, you're not doing much, you can't work because you don't have any training, you can't study. So we've been creating these structures, we've been relying heavily on new innovation that they can't think about. They think about bags of rice We think about these young boys and these young girls' futures, and we empower them with their futures. Take it back, take it. They're not going to give it to you. 13.8 million, like you said, they're not going to hand that over.
All right.
You need to take it back.
Okay, we have more feedbacks this morning. I think this one is from Mali. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I really enjoy your topic of today. My contribution is Nigerians should see themselves as one. How long will it take us to stop killing ourselves? We should learn how to love one another as it is written in the Bible. People should go out and vote for someone they think that can move the nation forward, not by fighting each other. Long live Nigeria. From Efosa Isaac Odia, a Nigerian residing in Mali. Okay, from Jonathan again. This is Jonathan from Anambra. He says the solution is let everybody play by the rules. Okay, in the closing moment of the show, we have the barely 2-3 minutes to wrap this. I just want you both to just sum up all of your thoughts in a minute or two.
So we represent a political party, the African Action Congress, that aims to do something remarkably different in Nigerian politics. We know that for the last 58 years, Nigerians have yearned for a country that can be one in which they can have their dreams fulfilled. Nigerians individually, we are an incredibly creative and dynamic people. The problem we've had is we've never had a country and we've never had leaders that can meet the dynamism of its people. What we aim to provide, so we've found ourselves in this situation where every electoral cycle it is, let us pick the better of two evils. We know this party is bad, this other party is bad as well, but let's choose whichever is the better of the two bad options that we have. For the first time, we're telling Nigerians that we have a credible alternative. Yes, we're a young party, but guess what? We're a young party that I'm sure people watched the candidates' debates, the candidates' forums that were staged. Only 4 parties were picked. Those 4 parties were picked by a poll that was commissioned by the MacArthur Foundation. They were the top 4 parties in the country. And guess what? It was APC, PDP, it was AAC, our party, and the YPP. Okay. So we have a credible alternative. And at the top of our ticket is a man who for 30 years, Omoyele Sowore, has been at the forefront of moving things forward.
Let us stay on the topic and not in campaign. All right, Rachel, I want you to sum up the topic too in 1 minute to youth out there, to women as well.
Absolutely. So I think, thank you for bringing that point actually. That's very important because women play a very valid role. What we lack in physical strength, we more than compensate for with intelligence, with diplomacy, with tact, with, we have inborn intuition that helps us get a grasp of what's going on and how best to navigate it where physical strength might fail you. So I think women play a very pivotal role in these elections to talk to their husbands, to their brothers, to their sons, to say, don't do it like this, do it like this. This one doesn't work for you, do this instead. When it comes to election violence, I'm going to say again and again and again. They've been giving you 5,000 to go and break this person's head or to go disrupt this occasion or this event or whatever. Has it lasted? What have you bought with the 5,000? How is your life any different? So if you want to see a credible change in Nigeria in the next 4 years, possibly 8 years, try a better way. You look for a different alternative because the APC isn't going to give it to you. The PDP is not going to give it to you. There's only one party that can give it to you, and that's the African Action Congress.
All right, more comment. Why are arms-carrying political thugs and bodyguards allowed to move about with politicians in the full glare of our security agencies? That one just threw it out there to all of us. Unfortunately, we're not able to achieve curbing out violence in elections. No punitive punishment has been in any way given to any Nigerian politicians or even those that they used to perpetrate this act. If we're able to do this in addition to proper sensitization, I believe we will get there. Sir Hyacinth Odenwoke in Ghana. This one just says, okay, from Kogi State, I'm Zuwera. Okay, you didn't state what you were saying. Okay, fine. Let's just keep the conversation flowing on social media. You know how we do it. The hashtag is Galaxy Today. You can do that on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Let's just curb and reduce. Let's even eliminate it completely. We don't need violence in our elections. We Nigerians are very peaceful people. Let us stay so. All right, our guests here in Lagos have been Dr. Malcolm Fabiyi, DG of the African Action Congress, and of course Rachel Onamusi-Kpiasi, Director of Public Relations of the same organization. Many thanks for joining us on Galaxy
today. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. And of course, Rabbi Badam, we had Dolapo Dosumo, Director NOA or your state, as well as Ezenwa Mwagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms in Abuja. Thank you so much. You sat back and enjoyed the conversation. We'll do the same time again tomorrow. Remember, the way to peace is never war. I'm Uche Onyekuluje. Do have a beautiful Tuesday.
And I'm Justin Akademi. Many thanks for being a part of the show. We'll return again tomorrow, and we'll be looking at something completely different. Not politics this time around, but health. Bye for now.